Good morning. And here at Gen Taub Live, it is Friday. It is not Lie Day. I guess that's a bad mom joke, but seriously, we are inundated, absolutely fucking inundated with utter lies. And thank God that the courts are holding. I know earlier in the week, I was saying stuff like, no, the institutions have not held. But my friends, we still have the courts. And a judge absolutely slammed Donald Trump and Kristi Noem and the entire administration for having the audacity and the cruelty to try to use the Alien Enemies Act that requires some invasion from a foreign country. They have been invoking it in order to disappear and deport people who are of Venezuelan nationality, to detain them in the United States without any kind of due process or criminal charges. Number one, that's against the Constitution normally. And then to exile them to a foreign prison. All of this violates due process. And the Trump administration has done two things that have been slammed by the court. First, they've said there needs to be no due process. We can just round these guys up who are Venezuelan nationals and dump them in prisons. Too bad. Well, the Supreme Court said no. There needs to be some kind of due process. And so, the next thing they tried is, okay, we'll give them one day. Now it's been 12 hours to try to get a lawyer, right? Okay, that hasn't been enough. But better than that, what has never been brought before a court, not even the Supreme Court, what has never been adjudicated by a judge until yesterday, and it was a Texas judge, a federal court judge in Texas, a federal court judge who had been appointed to the bench by none other than Donald Trump. That judge ruled yesterday that Donald Trump and Kristi Noem, that the administration cannot, and let me just pull this up for you, cannot detain Venezuelan aliens, transfer them within the United States, or remove them from the country. I am quoting a 36-page opinion right now by a federal court judge. This happened yesterday. Now, what do I expect next? I expect an appeal by the Trump administration to the Fifth Circuit, and that this will go up to the United States Supreme Court. Now, to be clear, we have been following so many of these cases. So, yes, this is all of the cases we have been following about people who have been whisked away and sent to El Salvador. All of those cases, and there are numerous of them, to let you know, to make this clear, all of them stem from a declaration by Donald Trump in March that he was going to use this law called the Alien Enemies Act so that his administration would not have to follow the normal laws and procedures before detaining and deporting people, right? That is all that they're stemming from. Now, remember, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who was sent to El Salvador, was also sent on similar pretenses, okay? But the case I'm talking about right now, the decision that came down from a federal judge in Texas, relates to people who are right now detained in Texas prisons. We're talking about people who are not U.S. citizens, but who come from Venezuela, who are right now in prison in Texas, okay? And this federal judge said, got to the meat of this, right? Got to the very question we have all asked, which is this Alien Enemies Act that came into being, what was it, 96, that has only been invoked 3 times. And the last 2 were World War II and World War I. And we did not wrap ourselves in glory when we invoked the law last time. However, we are not at war with Venezuela. Basically, I mean, let me just be clear about what the judge is saying here. We're not at war with Venezuela, nor are we at war with this Trenda Aragua gang, and therefore back off. You cannot use this law. Period. End of story. This is huge. Now, I know your next response is, so who's going to make him? That's our next step. But essentially, this is, I think, one of the most significant decisions that, if it holds, can help uphold everything we hold dear about freedom in this country. First, they came for the people who were with tattoos, some of whom are in a gang. It's not illegal to be in a gang. Find the violation. First, they came for undocumented immigrants with tattoos. Next, you might actually be one of those undocumented immigrants with tattoos. But next, they came for American citizens. You have seen this happen. They came next for the babies and sent them without their cancer medication into exile, right? We need to stop this now. And the judge is trying right now to do that. Okay, guys? So I was very jazzed and encouraged by this. But now let's get into move from law and move into money. And I promise I will talk about yesterday's protests as well. So speaking of money, as much as I have been saying for, I think, over a week now, maybe it's been a little less, like, yeah, the shelves are going to be not empty, but pretty thin in their offerings of certain products. And as much as I've said, yeah, this feels a lot like February of 2020, right before COVID hit and people started hoarding. Ask me, have I hoarded anything? Answer, no. Nope. Michael did some shopping at Trader Joe's, and then yesterday he and I did some shopping at a local regular supermarket. We hoarded nothing. We bought the produce and the things that we needed for the house in regular quantities. Michael might correct me by text right now. Maybe he's hoarding and I don't know it. We also happen to have a garden, so that helps us make vegetables, grow vegetables, or at least Michael grow them. And we have no chickens in the backyard. But the point I'm making is I can sit here and tell you guys this is coming, but I am human and it hasn't really fully sunk in, right? Like, I know we need to do any car repairs and tune-ups now, because I've heard that sometimes people can't find parts and stuff like that. Have I made that appointment? No, I have not. It's on my fucking list. Back off, you guys. But the reason why I bring this up, I'm sure that you may have already heard. Last night on Chris Hayes, Chris was discussing the breaking news story from Rolling Stone magazine, which has been doing the best reporting. Kudos to Rolling Stone and to Wired, because they are busting it out. And the Wall Street Journal. I got to tell you, we've got some amazing news organizations. Let me throw in ProPublica. Okay, there we go. Rolling Stone, Wired Magazine, ProPublica, and the Wall Street Journal are kicking ass. Also, the New York Times, even though they've got some really suck up access journalism there, they've got some really good reporting as well. Okay, so let's talk, though, right now about the hoarding. You need to see this if you have not already seen it. And if you have, let's watch this again. Let's do it. Here we go.
I want to ask you, Catherine, about this great bit of reporting from Rolling Stone today about the tariffs and about preparations that are happening. I'm sure this has happened to you in people, that people have been like front loading their consumption.
I'm hearing from newly evolved preppers and hoarders.
Yes, exactly. Yes. And it has a little bit of that texture of the early COVID days of like, oh, go get all the paper towels. So this is a great bit of reporting in Rolling Stone. 2 Trump administration officials and a Trump aide tell Rolling Stone they have done some stockpiling of their own in recent weeks or months. They know others working in Republican politics inside and outside the administration who are doing the same. One of the Trump officials says they have already run to Target to bulk buy toilet paper, some types of food, and other household supplies. When asked why they're doing this, a Trump aide who says they and their partner have done similar household hoarding lately are also stashing cash reserves in their D.C. area home simply replies, because it would be stupid not to.
Well, to be fair, Doge has also been responsible for toilet paper shortages at some of the federal agencies.
Oh, that's true. Yes, because they.
So guys, look, because it would be stupid not to. People closest to the madness here, the people who are the absolute, I don't know, being digested inside of the belly of the beast as we speak, know that it is time to hoard. And still, I sit before you, talking with you, drinking my coffee. And have I hoarded my coffee yet? The most important thing for me, not yet, but I'll get on it. Okay, guys. So in all seriousness, because we can go over the top with this stuff, right? We are not going to be living a life of Little House on the Prairie where we are going to be raising our own livestock and taking the parts of the cows and pigs that we don't want and drying them in a shed out back for jerky in the winter. Although I always liked those pioneer books. I've now found out, unfortunately, that maybe Louisa May Alcott needs to be somewhat canceled because maybe her books were part of a white supremacist agenda. But allow me the fantasy of thinking that at least the television series starring Michael Landon was worth watching and wholesome. But at any rate, we're not there. However, there is reason to be concerned about what lies ahead. And yes, Christmas is going to suck for children whose parents are shocked by the prices and, more than that, have lost their jobs. Shit is heading our way. And so, as I said to you, who will Donald Trump blame? Because he will never, ever take responsibility for this, right? First, he's saying, I'm going to convince people this is good, right? He said that yesterday. He's also saying, who needs $30, right? He's trying to put a spin on this, like, hey, you're the victims. This is what he does, right? Victim blaming. He's like, you're complaining? Buck up, people. Your kids are spoiled brats. They don't need $30, right? He's starting with that, right? That's one angle. Blame the victims of his chaos. He's also blaming China. And also Joe Biden, right? Joe Biden let China rip us off by making $1 trillion off of us, making it off of us, right? So in other words, every person, I thought the Republicans believed in individual choice. Everyone who went online and bought something, made those choices. Now they won't have those choices because Donald Trump doesn't like the fact that China is making money by our purchases. Fuck you guys. I remember when people attacked Bernie Sanders when he was criticizing commercialism. Didn't he say, do we really need 5 different types of deodorant to choose from? He said something like that. And people were like up in arms. I mean, they're talking about that new sugar excise tax. I remember when they practically skinned Michael Bloomberg, mayor of New York, alive when he imposed a ban on sugary soft drinks above a certain size. Also, kind of dumb because you can really get around it by just buying 2. But nevertheless, he was concerned about health. I still remember, you might too, when Michelle Obama planted a vegetable garden and wanted to encourage kids to eat healthy foods, right? All of that was considered and lambasted as communist or fascist or totalitarian or stop taking away consumers' choices. And right now, Donald Trump is saying, fuck your choices. And his people who are inside are saying, stock up right now. So who do you think they're going to blame? And again, Of course, it's Joe Biden. And of course, you know this. And here's how they're doing it. I know it might bother you this early in the morning, but I'm going to warn you right now. I want to show you JD Vance being interviewed by Bret Baier on Fox News. Okay. So grab, brace yourselves. Here we go.
So the first thing is, when you talk about the economy, this is Joe Biden's economy, and we inherited $2 trillion of debt, the highest peacetime deficits in American history.
Fuck all the way off, JD Vance. Are you kidding me? This is Joe Biden's economy? How dumb, how much disrespect do you have for the American people? What an absolute pig this man is, and no offense intended to pigs. I'm sorry. And I'm a good Jewish girl. I don't eat pork. I'm sorry I even mentioned the Little House in the Prairie era where we were going to have pigs in the backyard and eat them. And even cows. I'm sorry I mentioned that, okay? Fine. We'll dry the vegetables and fruit. Whatever, you guys. Stop. Okay. So, fuck JD Vance. Let's look at this. What the heck am I showing you? George Takai. I know I'm pronouncing his name wrong. I love him from Star Trek. He is also huge on Blue Sky, if you haven't hustled over there yet. And as a reminder, I changed my Blue Sky handle, same account. It's now at jennifertaub.com. That way it's hard to explain, but it helps authenticate you. Now you guys, George Takai, the markets know the difference. And here we have a picture of Joe Biden on the left and Donald Trump. And we have the blue showing you the stock market's rise under Joe Biden. And then here is the Dow. I don't know if that's the Dow on the left or the S&P. It's hard for me to see. At any rate, you can see the Dow tumbling under Donald Trump. Now, we are still going to hear this. Because, and I got to say this to you, it's not just people who are in the tank for Donald Trump who'll just believe whatever he says or just hate Joe Biden. And it's not just people who you think are low information or don't have the mental capacity to really grok this stuff or understand this. Or it is very confusing what we're talking about, right? There are also people who have all of the knowledge and all of the skills and capacity, but are just tuning this out. And so when all jobs are lost and store shelves are, as Donald Trump said, open or empty in part, people are going to be pissed off and they are preparing the scapegoat and they're going to say it was Joe Biden. And we are going to have people who believe it. And it's really easy when Elon Musk was in the news every day, everyone hated Elon Musk, right? And if we just say this is Trump's recession or these are Trump's tariffs, it's not big enough. We need to call this what it is. This is the Republican agenda. And I know people like to say Project 2025 because that's how we do things, right? It sounds eerie and creepy. Well, that didn't fucking convince anybody. I thought it would, but I'm not a politician or a political scientist. I'm just a human here. And we are so delicate. We Democrats want to sound bipartisan because we think if we're alienating people who consider themselves Republican, they'll never come to our side. Well, you know what? That's not true. This is the Republican agenda. This is the Republican deportations. These are the Republican exiles of children with cancer. This is the Republican economy. This is the Republican clown car. I would never want to be a Republican. And this is not my mom's Republican Party. And this is not Abraham Lincoln's Republican Party. This is the MAGA Republican Party. Keep saying it and saying MAGA is not enough, guys. Grow a pair and call out the Republicans so that when people go to a ballot and they see they were Republican, they think about their neighbor whose home was raided and the daughters put out in the rain in their underwear. That's the Republicans' raid on Americans. Do it. That's where we are. Now, speaking of this, you guys, and I am not yet, I'm just cooking right now. Let me take a sip of coffee. I'm just getting going for this Friday. I'm going to ask you to like and follow. And I've got a secret I don't want to tell you. I'm working on some affiliations. Boop, 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 boop. And so I do think what we are doing here together, whether it is Susan or Deb or Jason or all of you, I see you, Roxanne, Violet, Nick, you guys are here. Philip, hey, yo, from Canada. You guys, we are here together. Rosanna, we are here together every day. I mean, there's so many of you. I'm scrolling here and I cannot get you. Renee, good morning. Grumpy Cat, Jaroslav, Fancy, all of you, Denise, and so on. Guys, I'm sorry, I'm missing you. Christine, Loki, Melissa. So, and yes, Melissa, I got that commencement speech on tap. We're doing something special here, you guys. So please, if you haven't followed the show, and I say follow, but I mean subscribe, free subscription, right? If you want to step up to one of these little paid things, whatever, that's not the deal. The goal here is what we're doing together, the community we're building, I think is important. And we are almost at 9,000. And there's this magic, guys. There's this magic. When we get to 10,000, all hell breaks loose. We blow up. So I really want to keep doing this, quite frankly. I love it. I love it. This is a labor of love. But I also want to blow this thing up through an affiliation. Again, top secret. Okay, let's go back to this. Okay, yesterday we had even more crazy news, right? Mike Waltz was terminated. This is the guy who had, he was the one who had created the very first known signal chat that included Jeffrey Goldberg, the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, on news about a imminent bombing of an apartment in Yemen. So Mike Waltz, who was national security advisor, suddenly yesterday no longer was, right? So you want to hear how this went down because, this is Trump 2.0. This is the Republican way of governing things in our country. Let's play it.
Something has just come out from the president.
Yeah.
So
All right, great. Terrific.
the president has just written on Truth Social that Mike Waltz is going to become the new U.S. ambassador to the United Nations.
Well, there
Therefore,
you
no
go.
longer the National Security
Fabulous.
Advisor. And in addition to that, he says that in the interim, Secretary of State Marco Rubio will serve as National Security Advisor while continuing his strong leadership at the State Department. Do you know how long he's going to be serving in both roles?
It is clear that I just heard this from you. This is the magic.
No heads up that this was
Well,
coming today?
I have some insights as to the potential of certain things that might happen. But when the president, and this of course is all presidential decisions, right? So I'm with the State Department. It is, as I think would be clear to all of you, you don't want to get ahead of your skis in drawing conclusions or speculating about what may occur. And you can have a general sense of what's possible. And then you see that manifest usually. But I think the one thing I've learned is that things don't happen until the president.
My God, she's good at her job. I mean, aside from the fact that she's working for this corrupt Republican administration, this woman's good. This woman's good at her job. I mean, she did a little like, but she didn't want to say too much about the content of this because it's on Truth Social, she's probably calculating, is it even true? They're reporting it to her. She hasn't heard it. So she did that. She did that real well. That's kind of bullshit that we are dealing with right now in this administration. Okay. So, I want to take a moment before we get to Crazy Town to talk to you, like just face to face, about the real deal. You get me first thing in the morning, right? I'm a morning person. My college roommates fucking hated that. I am morning. Morning is my moment. Morning is when I wake up and I get dressed and I get my first cup of coffee. And in the morning, everything is possible. When I used to be a runner, I would get up, have some water, and I would go out and run for about 40 minutes. I don't know how many miles it was, maybe 4 miles, 40, 45 minutes. I'm a slow runner. I remember this in law school. I'd leave my dorm. I'd run out down to the Charles River, run up one side of it across a bridge, down the other side across another bridge, and back home. When I was in New York City as a young lawyer, I'd walk to the gym, work out, and go right from the gym straight to work. I mean, I would bring my workout clothes and my suit and what have you. And I didn't even get my coffee till after my workout then. Anyway, from one of those little vendors on the street. But I always felt like what I did first thing in the morning, if I could get up and accomplish something, that I would own the day. So this is the context in which I'm telling you, you see me bright-eyed and smiley in the morning. But what you don't see me is the early afternoon of despair as the sun is about to set, but it's not quite dinner time. And I'm facing the reality that, 80% of what I thought I was going to get done didn't get done. And I have to just be that cheerleader who says, yes, at least you did 20%. Plus you put out a gazillion fires today. Not a gazillion, maybe 3, And then also facing the reality that where we are is unprecedented. What the Republicans are doing to us by refusing to remove their leader from power, because they can do it. They can do it. It is easy for the Republicans to remove Donald Trump. It's easier than anything they could possibly do. They just need to get 20 men, and it's mostly men, a couple women in a room, and say enough is enough. The Republicans own this. And what is frightening is there is no bottom to this. It gets worse, and Donald Trump doesn't care. He wants to sell America off in pieces. He doesn't care if we die. And the part that is the most serious, and the part that, despite my smile and my bright eyes, that rips me up inside, is the most dangerous person in the Trump administration right now is RFK Jr. And, there's this thing about the Kennedy family, because we had, as you know, JFK as a president. We had RFK, this man's father, run for president. Both men were assassinated. We've always heard in this country this expression, the Kennedy curse. And JFK Jr. dying in the plane crash, all the ridiculous rumors about that. The bottom line here, my friends, is RFK Jr. is one of the lucky ones. He was a drug addict, and he was able, I presume, to get sober. I think he is. I don't know, unless he's also a steroid addict right now. He had a brother who lost his life to addiction. There's so many, and these are common stories in families across the country, wealthy or not. And instead of counting his blessings and thinking about the way in which he has an opportunity to serve and remaining in the area that he's good at, which is environmental law, he is arrogant and dangerous and self-serving, and he will cause the death of more children in this country than we have ever seen before if he is allowed to continue on the path. So in the early afternoon, I think about that, because some of the latest things that he is doing is he is now going to require, because he's head of Health and Human Services, that vaccines for deadly diseases must go through these, double-blind studies with placebos. Now, I know you probably have thought about this, that when you're testing new drugs, like for weight loss, or a new drug for eczema, or a new drug for any condition that is not deadly, the top tier way to legitimize offering something to the public and claiming it has beneficial health effects is by having a group one group get the placebo and another group get the actual drug, right? And not know what they were getting. And double blind means that both the people who are receiving the tested drug and the people receiving the placebo, so that's one group, they don't know, as well as the people administering it, because you don't want people who are giving the medicine out to know, because they might be like nudge, nudge, or behave differently, or lie and tell people, right? That is the state of the art. That's the tip of the top kind of science. And I'm not a scientist. I'm just simplifying this, right? However, when it comes to things like deadly diseases, we don't do that, because you would not, because this is what that would look like. If you wanted to do a test on a measles drug, or I don't know, on a COVID drug, the way you would do double blind would be you would take one group and expose them to the disease while they were getting no medication, like deliberately expose them. And the other group, having been vaccinated with a real vaccine, would also be exposed. And then you would compare who got sick and died versus who didn't, and you would count the bodies. That is not what we do. That has never been what we do because of the harm involved. And that's what RFK Jr. wants to do. He is also misleading people about, and I'm saying misleading because lying means in this context that there would be, that he isn't as deranged as he actually is. But he is misleading people about how certain vaccines are created, such as the COVID vaccine and other vaccines, and the cells in which that they are grown. And he is lying to the public to scare them. And he's saying that pieces of aborted fetuses are in the medicines that we are taking, in the vaccines. That is not true. That is not true. But he is saying that to draw attention to the fact that certain vaccines, let me just explain this, and this is important, so that certain vaccines had to be, for example, COVID type vaccines had to be tested. Like when you test a vaccine, if you're not doing those double blind things, guys, the way you have to test a vaccine, well, even if you are, is you do it in a lab, right? And you want to grow a virus. So if you're growing the COVID virus, you're growing measles or what have you, where do you grow it? You've got to grow it in human cells. And the best kind of human cells in which to grow things are human cells that are the kind that will replicate very rapidly. So my understanding of the science, and having read it yesterday, is that there was a woman in the, I'm guessing I think it was the 80s or earlier, a voluntary abortion. And there was then a fetus that had cells that were extracted, and those cells are used currently as an environment. These are cells, not pieces of a fetus, cells that are used as an environment to replicate viruses so that you can use vaccines to see if they can kill it. And so this is the height of science. And apparently what I read yesterday is that at one point the Pope approved this process. So I just want to tell you, I'm just giving you the very sketched out explanation of this. And the scientists in the chat can tell me the nuances I got wrong. But there are no, in the COVID viruses, and the COVID vaccines that we are getting, there are not pieces of fetuses. And by the way, every bit of the air we breathe has particles from everything else in the world in it. So I just can't begin to say how dangerous this man is. And so, yes, I start my morning with my smiles, but I want to share with you the darkest part of the things that I think about. Now, let me add to this. You might say that can't be. Why would they want to slow down vaccines? Why do they want people not to get the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine? Why does he want to avoid vaccines generally? And the answer is this. Just like Donald Trump, people like RFK Jr. want to engage in a kind of modern Darwinism, not the Spencerian social Darwinism, where you believe that survival of the fittest in the existing social systems. I think they're literally wanting to let people die as children if they are vulnerable or have any kind of illnesses. And even if they don't, they just want people to die who are, if they're not their family members, if they are weak. Now, let me go back, weak in quotes, if they cannot survive diseases. They want to go back to the days when people would have large families and a third of the kids might die as children, or the women would die in childbirth. That's pretty much where they are. Women, we are not fully realized human beings. We are carriers of the offspring and raisers of the children. Think of J.D. Vance. Older women should just be raising the grandchildren. And those who cannot survive this system should just die. That is where they are. And then I said, other than family members. Well, let's take a look at RFK's family. Instead of taking the lesson that he's lucky to be alive, given his choices, he has been around death, and maybe he's taken the other attitude, like, well, those people deserve to be dead. I don't know what lesson he has taken, but remember, he had an aunt. There was someone, I think JFK and RFK's sibling, who had some mental illnesses. And instead of the family taking care of her, they sent her off to an asylum, and they had her lobotomized. That is that family. That is what he comes from. He needs to be stopped. So I'm really happy. Oh, sorry, the Mike Waltz thing. I'm really happy that Mike Waltz is no longer National Security Advisor. I think it's crazy that Marco Rubio is wearing several hats. But my friends, that is not the most important thing today, right? The most important thing today, the two most important things, one, are what the judge did yesterday, saying, no, the Alien Enemies Act cannot be used in this fashion. And two, getting RFK out of government and getting a real doctor and scientist running HHS and everything that flows down from this. Because the Republicans, it's worse than the death panels they said there would be. The Republicans are killing children. The Republican agenda is to let children die of childhood diseases. That is the Republican agenda. Now, my friends, let's do a little crazy town. I think we need some levity. Here we go. Here we go. Doesn't work for me, but I do like the music. So let's get in the mood. Okay, guys, speaking of children, after children go off to college and they graduate, they're commencement speakers. And I think all of us may remember the commencement speakers from our college graduation. We had, when I graduated from college, Tom Wolfe of Bonfire of the Vanities and A Man in Full and many of the other books that he has written. I've only read those two. Speak, and I remember that well. And Stephen Hawking did not speak, but he was given an honorary degree. So these are the things that we might remember from our college graduations. Well, can you imagine being a student at the University of Alabama, and maybe you are a Donald Trump supporter, but you see this man come speak, this man, and when you see him, he is a sweaty, dripping mess with an oatmeal brain. And I want to share with you, this is our crazy town, what Donald had to say yesterday.
Waiting at an exciting time for our nation, a period of both extraordinary change and incredible potential and what will be unbelievable growth. You're going to see that very soon. You're going to see it starting very, very soon. The whole world is talking about it.
You're going to see unbelievable growth starting very, very soon. Oh, sure. So when he drives the US and world economy into a hole, and he keeps digging deeper and deeper and deeper to the point where he has hit water and now we are sinking in a well. At that point, if someone throws us a lifeline and we get pulled out, sure. Donald Trump actually thinks, and he will, that if he destroys the economy and brings it back, he should get credit. He should get credit for that. Right? That is how crazy shit is today. Now, thank God, one last thing before we go. Thank God for the protest yesterday. I was looking on Blue Sky, guys, and I saw incredible images from all across the country. And I want to share some of these with you right now. And I am going to do this sharing. I'm going to do something fancy here as I play the music out for you today. So let's go. I will see you on Monday, but right now I want to get ready for, here we go, get ready for all these wonderful images of protests. Have a fabulous weekend. I will blow this up in a second, and I will see you on Monday.
Hello, prison mates. It's the Gen Taub show. Where welcome everyone. Let's learn about what is happening in politics yesterday and today. There is hope, and we are together in this democracy we work for. And again, welcome to the Gen Taub show.
Create titles of nobility in the United States of America.
Do, 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 do.